What's up, everyone? You're listening to WKNC 88.1 FM Raleigh. We are a student-run nonprofit radio station based out of North Carolina State University. I'm Plover, and this is Off the Record. Here with me today is Max Gowan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Awesome. Just out of curiosity, wait, is it Gowan or Gowan? I want to make sure I get that right.
Yeah, no, it's hard to tell from the spelling. It's Gowan.
Gowan.
So
Okay.
it rhymes with like chowing, like chowing down.
Awesome. Max
Yeah.
Gowan down. Nice. Just real quick, who are you? Where are you from? Kind of what's the lowdown?
Yeah, I'm a musician based in Raleigh. I was also born and raised in Raleigh. But I went to college in D.C. for about 4 years. But other than that, I've lived in Raleigh pretty much my whole life. So, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So you mentioned you're a musician. How'd you kind of get started into that? Was that like during college, like you mentioned, or just kind of organically?
It was pretty early. I started playing guitar when I was, I want to say 8 years old. My dad started teaching me, and then I kind of like co-opted his teacher and slowly started taking lessons from my dad's guitar teacher. And I was like really big into like metal music and like punk and like, middle school time. Like I actually played in a death metal band and we played at the Poorhouse when I was in eighth grade.
Whoa.
That was my first like bar show. But yeah, so I've been playing music for a long time. The music that I make now under my name is a project that I basically started at the end of high school, just home recording pretty much all the parts myself and kind of like teaching myself how to do the whole recording process. So I've been doing that for like 7 years now.
Nice, nice. So you mentioned you were kind of a big fan of punk and metal. Is there any kind of that like ethos in your current music?
I'm sure there is. Like, I'm sure it makes its way into it. I feel like technically, I guess you could call my music singer-songwriter, but it's like very focused on instrumentals. Like, I'm big into riffs, if you will,
Yeah.
and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely like I feel like the focus on instrumentals and like trying to make something compelling instrumentally probably comes from my love of metal instrumentals because they're usually really, really crazy.
For sure, yeah. I definitely hear like pianos as well in your music as well. It's a really cool like range you've kind of been having in terms of the instruments. Dude.
Sorry, the phone cut out there a little bit. Would you mind repeating
No,
that?
you're all good. Yeah, I just remember I heard some pianos in there, some various instruments. That was really cool. They have like a nice like range. Yeah, even for a quote unquote singer songwriter record, there's a lot going on there, which is really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I do not know how to play piano, but I have enough like that I can kind of like plunk something out if I'm given enough takes. So yeah, I like to throw as many textures in as I can, at least for what fits the song, ideally.
Nice. Well, again, speaking of your music, you have a new album out, of course, called Glossolalia. This kind of feels like a very personal album. So, how was the kind of recording process for that for you?
Yeah, so the recording process is pretty much the same as what I've done ever since I started home recording, which is I, kind of try to lay down a foundation for all the songs myself with like guitar, bass, and drums. And I actually had more collaborators on this than I normally do. Like, there's a lot of great musicians on it. My good friend Caroline, her project's called Infinity Crush. She was also based in Raleigh. So she played like strings and French horn on some songs. My friend Travis played drums on a song. My friend Chris played drums on a song. So there's definitely more collaboration going on. But I feel like lyrically, this is definitely a bit more of a personal record for me. There's still some like, character stories and things that are not necessarily autobiographical. But there's also some songs that are a little more vulnerable than I'm used to being, probably. So that was a bit of a way for me to branch out this time, I think.
For sure. A lot of artists I talk to who kind of are more focused on home recordings, it's always really cool to like be part of that collaboration, like with friends and maybe even roommates who can kind of really easily just bounce off ideas off each other. Like, how is that like essentially playing with a group of friends on this record?
Yeah, it's more. I mean, I feel like the older I get, the more fun I have doing that. Music used to be this really solitary activity for me. At least I like enjoyed it a lot as a very like almost like manic, like, lock yourself in a room for like 8 hours and try to make something alone. And I still enjoy doing that, but I think, the older I get, the more like that loses its novelty a little bit, and it feels a lot more fun and novel to have other people in the room. And I've actually started recording friends and trying to branch out to other bands too at my house, just because I'm enjoying being involved on other people's projects pretty much as much as I enjoy doing my own stuff now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you were doing some like mixing and mastering for other people. Yeah, kind of what's it like being part of other people's creative process like that in terms of like, I guess, the post production side.
I really like mixing and mastering other people's music, actually a lot more than I like doing to my own music, because there's like a level of objectivity, at least I would like to think there's a level of objectivity that I am able to have when it's someone else's song and I'm like the fresh pair of ears on it, kind of putting the finishing touches before it's finished. Whereas if you've been making a song yourself, and you've probably heard this, like there's kind of the old adage that like the band shouldn't mix the record, like it should be done by someone else. And it's because you get so close to something while you're working on it that you kind of lose perspective on it a little bit. So I think, I really enjoy working with other people, because to me, I feel like this, they've put all this effort into recording and writing and performing, and it sounds great. And then it's my job to just kind of like make stuff shine as much as possible from the state it's already in.
Yeah. I'm not myself a producer, and I have heard of that adage, but I'm not, I guess I'm not really the most clear about that kind of process. What does like mixing and mastering kind of do in terms like what does that really do to the music?
So basically the way that I would explain it is like microphones, when you're recording something, even though a lot of microphones are amazing, they're still kind of just like worse ears. And so basically, even a really, really well recorded project, there's a lot of balancing to do, kind of like in your car, if you've got like a bass, mid, and treble knob, mixing is sort of like a much more complicated version of that, but for every element of the music. So, your drum set, your guitars, your vocals, and then mastering is kind of ensuring that that the song will sound good across as many playback systems as possible, and it also you want to ensure that the song is like roughly as loud as other songs in the genre. So that's like what mastering is. Trying not to make this too boring.
No, yeah, that's really
I really enjoy it though. I really enjoy that process, and I thought it was initially, when I started doing it for my own music, I thought it was going to be like this chore, just like this tedious thing that I had to do to make my music sound good. And then the more I did it, the more I realized I really enjoy that kind of technical side of things too.
For sure, yeah, it's really cool. And since you do home recordings, that's really great that you can kind of embrace that kind of technical side and don't just like hand it off to a producer. That's always great to see.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What is that? What does glossolalia mean exactly? I don't know. I know that word.
Yeah, it's a pretty goofy word. I feel like half of the reason I picked it is just because I liked how it sounds. I feel like it makes for a good album title. But basically, it's the act of spontaneously speaking in tongues. That's glossolalia. So, like, I think there's another word for speaking randomly in a language that exists that you don't know how to speak in. Mm-hmm. But then there's glossolalia, I think, is like speaking in a tongue that like humans don't speak, basically. So it's kind of a biblical thing. But yeah, I kind of picked that as the album title because musically this album felt really like, I guess you could say spontaneous to me. Like I really followed my whims, especially with a lot of the instrumentals. And there's a lot of like twists and turns, I guess, that the album takes. And so I sort of wanted it to have this title that captured like the, I guess the abstract nature of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I noticed there were a lot of very free flowing tracks. There was some like just straight up instrumental tracks, more with your vocals in it. Talking about that, how do you like start with the instrumental? Do you start with like an idea lyrically and then like build in an instrumental from that?
I think usually my like my better songs, in my opinion, I will get like one very brief lyrical idea around the same time I get like, for example, if I'm sitting down playing guitar, there will be sort of this implied melody in whatever chord progression I'm playing, and I can kind of start just like almost making like just phonetic sounds when I'm singing along, and then all of a sudden like a vocal idea will come to me through that. So that's usually how it starts. But then other times, I'll just have a day to myself and just like throw up the mics on the drums and kind of lay down a groove, and then I build an instrumental from there and then do vocals last. So it all varies. It really depends on how I'm feeling that day.
For sure. And of course it comes out great. One of my favorite songs off of that project was Jackal. What exactly did, like, there was a lot of symbol of a jackal, and like you're acting like a jackal. What exactly were you going for over that one?
Oh man, that's a good question. Yeah, that's the first track on the album, and I think I had been writing like several iterations of songs, like kind of around this theme of a jackal, and I don't really. I kind of want it to be open ended. I'd like people to take from it what they will, but I guess my thinking around it, however abstract it might be, is like kind of this distrust of strangers that maybe exists in America more than it does in other places. I don't know. I haven't really lived anywhere else, but like just this sort of idea that we can kind of build up people to be these monstrosities that they aren't necessarily. And so that's sort of what the song is getting at.
Sure. So is it like a character being a monstrosity, or like you being a monstrosity?
Right. Yeah. It's like, the perception that someone else might be distrustful of you, or that you might be, I don't know, I guess like just the distrust of the stranger and like the unknown. That's sort of like the jackal. Sorry, I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, but sometimes my lyrics can be pretty abstract. But
yeah, I'm sure there's many different interpretations of that one song even. So you've mentioned a few sort of hints about your song, your sound, excuse me. It's like singer-songwriter, like what exactly would you like specifically tell people who were like had never heard a Max Gowan song before, just to kind of sell them on that?
I think as like canned as it sounds, I would probably just tell someone that it's like indie rock music. I wish we had a better word, but I feel like that's a pretty good catch-all for, like, it'll give you an idea of what I sound like. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So yeah, that's usually what I would tell someone.
Yeah, I can definitely hear the indie rock sound, and especially in sort of the transition from the pre-recorded version to like a live version where you bring in more of a live band. Well, what's that kind of like, seeing those songs like amplified and added that extra dimension live with other people working on it?
Yeah, that's been something that's been really amazing about doing this project for as long as I've done it, is I always have had a good solid group of like friends and musicians who are down to help me, do these songs live. And so usually it's a 4-piece. Like right now, I'm really happy with the live version of our band that we've got. It's my friend Cruz, my friend Paul, and my friend Ryan. And so, it's kind of like a traditional rock setup, like guitar, bass, drums. But Cruz plays a lot of lap steel, which has been a really awesome texture to have live that I haven't had before. And he's an incredible player. And so, he's able to cover some of the more ambient things that I might have in a recording that we can't really replicate live. He's kind of able to cover that in his own like twangy lap steel way, which I really appreciate.
Sorry, what was that word exactly? Lap steel?
Oh, lap steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a slide guitar. Basically. Okay. Like country vibes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, very, very singer-songwriter. I like that. And mentioning live stuff, we saw you at a show at the WKNC Hopscotch Day Party. How was playing that one?
That was so much fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I wasn't sure what to expect because I'd seen some WKNC hosted shows on the loading dock, but not at the front of the D.H. Hill Library, and I feel like it worked out pretty well. There was like a good crowd. We enjoyed the set. I felt like we played all our songs. Like, I don't know if it's because it was broad daylight and we're used to playing in like, dive bars at night or something. But we played the whole set like on like turbo speed. Like we did all the songs like really fast. But I enjoyed it. I feel like people seem to enjoy it. So yeah, overall, a very good day.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then, of course, the person who came up to you afterwards and told you the Queen died during your set. How was hearing that one?
Yeah. Well, it's weird because that news was breaking like while we were getting ready for the show. Is that like she'd been hospitalized, and Cruz was like, "Dude, what if that happened like while we were playing?" And then I guess the prophecy came true. But yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if I sort of walked out hearing that. Yeah, it was a great set, of course, and and you mentioned you play a lot of kind of dive bars, sort of indoor things. What would you say is like kind of the cool part, or I guess the importance of those like kind of live like free shows, like kind of come by, see a few minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, are you saying like what's the importance of like day party type shows
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
like
those
free
kind
to
of
the
things.
public?
Yeah.
I really like them because I think obviously it's more accessible to the average person. There's not that like barrier of a cost to see a band that you've potentially never heard. So I think it's like better exposure for the bands, and it's also nice when there's like an organization like State that can still afford to pay the bands, even if it's like a quote unquote free show.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good thing. I think it's accessible, and someone who's just walking by and maybe wasn't planning on seeing a band, they'll stop, and then if they like it, they stay. So
For sure, yeah, and it was, as I heard, definitely audible in the library too, so they were also able to get a show.
Yeah, I walked in there to use the bathroom, and I was like, wow, this is probably not ideal for someone studying right now.
That was good. There's many floors of the library you go to. You mentioned that you played a lot faster than a dive bar. What's like kind of the difference in ambiance, I guess, that would kind of make that happen?
Well, I think it all depends on how everybody's feeling that day. Like maybe by the time we're a little bit wound down in the late afternoon or evening getting ready for a show, we're like more chill as a band than we are at 1 p.m. Who's to say? You probably would need like to hook us up to machines and study our like heart rhythms or something to really figure it
out. That'd be pretty good analysis. So this was of course a Hopscotch day party. Were you at kind of any other of the day parties, or at Hopscotch in general? This either as a band or just as an audience member?
Yeah, I did a fair amount of Hopscotch stuff. I actually was able to score like a free wristband. Shout out to my friend Devon. I still don't know exactly how that was acquired, but I won't ask any questions. Yeah, and so I got to see Courtney Barnett, which was great. I got to catch most of Black Country New Road on Friday night, and then, or maybe that was Thursday night.
Yeah, that was a Thursday.
And then, yeah, that was Thursday, and then Friday, the big show that I went to was Tomberlin and my friends in Truth Club and MJ Lenderman played a very late show at the Poorhouse that was like completely packed. It ended, I think we got out at like 2 a.m. and it was an incredible show. I love all three of those bands, but I'd never seen MJ before. He was the only one that I hadn't seen live, and he had like 8 people on the stage with him, and it was like devastatingly loud in the best way possible. I was very, very stoked about that one.
Yeah, his set was really cool. He was also at the outside part of Hopscotch, and that was a really cool set there too.
Yeah, I think they played like 4 shows or something this year.
It's been going off. So the Poorhouse, of course, was packed. We were trying to get into the Poorhouse, but the line was just like around the block when we came in. I'm glad you were able to get into that.
Yeah, I felt bad. I was seeing how many people outside were trying to get in, and it was like pretty much at capacity, like right as Tomberlin was starting. So, but yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure the atmosphere in there was awesome. What would you say is kind of like, I guess, the importance of, I guess, Hopscotch or just having a big music festival like that in the Raleigh area?
I think it's tough because, sometimes festivals can be I guess like overhyped in a sense. Like, you know, I've heard complaints about that with like South by Southwest before. That kind of turns into this like corporate, you know, networking thing more than just about the music. But I don't know. I feel like as long as the festival really seems to center music in the way that Hopscotch does, like I think the day party aspect of Hopscotch is really cool. I think that like, you know, the ticketed events are awesome, obviously. Like that's a lot of the names that people show up for. But like, I think the day parties are a great way to get people who may not be aware of what's going on locally, to check out local things. And it's like very low risk for them to do so. You know, it's like, well, I'm already going to Hopscotch, and there's all this free stuff happening all day, you know, so I might as well check it out. And so I think that's really nice. And it's cool to see it be an institution in Raleigh for as long as it's been. I don't know how long it's been, but I definitely remember going in high school. So it's at least a little while then. Yeah, I'm 25.
Yeah, it's been a minute. And like also just I feel like the day party culture is almost as big, if not big, as like the actual Hopscotch now. I feel like so many people I know were like thought Hopscotch was like either our day party or just day parties in general. So that's cool that like focus on the local scene is also kind of bled out of the general, I guess, music circles of Raleigh.
Yeah, exactly. I like that the day party / night thing kind of like blend into one at this point. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and also just like how like spread out everything is, and you just kind of like wonder, and then oh wow, I hear music playing from somewhere. That was really cool.
Right.
So are you at the Poorhouse? Are there any other day parties you were able to make it to?
I was at. Well, I played a solo set alongside a lot of really good solo / like duo performers at this place called Unlikely Professionals, which is it's like a clothing shop / bar right by like Person Street Bar, if people know where that is. And that was a really fun day party on Friday. It was hosted by this guy Rusty, who's really nice, and he has something called This Is Not a Show, I believe is the name of his radio show. And so, yeah, he invited me to play, and I got to see Dan from Friendship do a beautiful solo set. Got to see Will Janssen O-Stone. I missed Riggings, but I heard good things. So, yeah, that was a really nice kind of like intimate, quiet day party.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds really cool. I've never heard of that kind of venue before, but I'm sure that went well.
Yeah, I hadn't been there before. It's a really cool store. They also gave me an insane amount of like free trophy beer, which is always cool.
Always love that for sure. And another great venue, of course, the Nightlight, recently closed down. I remember seeing your show out there and thought that was really, really cool. How's it? That's a big loss for the scene. How does that kind of closing kind of impact the area?
Yeah, you said Nightlight.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize you were at that show. That's cool. Yeah. Was that the one I played with Truth Club? Yeah. No, that really is a wonderful spot. Like I played, or I didn't play there. I watched a friend's band play there a few years ago while I was in college and I wasn't living here. I was just like in town for a break. And I always thought that was like one of the best venues in Chapel Hill. So I'm really sad to see it go. Unfortunately, it seems like you're hearing more and more about stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places in Raleigh that are either already closed or I've heard of will be closing in the next few months, you know, and like, yeah, it's a bummer to see that happen. And I don't really know what the solution is, but yeah, it's definitely sad to see.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of years, and Kings was back for a bit, but then I guess that's not coming back totally.
I honestly have no idea what's going on with Kings.
Yeah.
I love Kings to death, though. I would take a bullet for Kings. So if there's any way to keep it afloat, someone let me know.
For sure, yeah. It was a bit before my time. I was never able to really go to there, but that place sounded awesome.
Yeah, I've seen so much good stuff at Kings. Really nice place.
Nice. What would you say, I guess, was like maybe the favorite show you've ever played, either in a sort of indoor place or more of an outdoor spot? What would be your favorite show?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think. There was a Halloween show that we did in Raleigh. There was a house venue that is no longer, but it was called Ash House. It was on Ash Avenue. And we played on Halloween. If not the day of Halloween, it was like, Halloween weekend, so essentially Halloween. And everyone was in costume. I believe I was dressed up as Luigi, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, we played with Black Bouquet and Vacant Company.
Nice.
And it was just like a really good turnout. Like a ton of people showed up, and it was Halloween, so everyone was rowdy. And I enjoy like a healthy amount of rowdiness at a house show. Like sometimes that can be more fun than like a bar show. So that's probably my favorite show in recent memory, mainly because I got to be in costume though. So
Nice. Yeah, that definitely adds a dimension.
yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned you've kind of grown up in Raleigh and lived here for very long, and while we've seen a lot of venues close recently, have you seen any kind of like growth in the Raleigh sort of local scene?
It's hard to say because we've started playing a lot more live shows recently, but I feel like COVID, especially at the beginning, kind of disconnected me from a lot of that. So I feel more out of the loop than maybe I was like in 2019, you could say. But it does seem like there's still a really strong community here for music. And it's hard to say whether or not I'm seeing it growing, but it definitely still feels pretty strong. So that's probably the best answer I can give.
Yeah, it's always good. Yeah, I remember I was when I was volunteering at Hopscotch, I was talking to someone about like how everyone's kind of moving into Raleigh, and it's good that we like have a festival for that, and hopefully that can some people kind of converging on the area can help grow that scene a bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure that will happen. I mean, again, like I feel like COVID kind of makes it so hard to gauge things like that, because it really shut things down for a while. But I don't know. I feel like just this year alone, like I've seen a lot of great shows. Seems like people are going to see stuff. I feel like people are actually maybe more eager to go out now than they were before. It's like now I feel like things like seeing live music might feel a little more precious. Maybe that's my guess, at least.
Yeah, definitely not taken for granted. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Nice. Well, we mentioned a lot of stuff during COVID. What was kind of the trajectory before COVID, if you have any insight onto that?
Yeah, so before COVID, I'd been playing. My project was still very much a thing, but I was just, finishing up school in DC. I graduated in May of 2019. Right. And so I came back to Raleigh with my girlfriend Amelia, just looking to work and play music here, kind of reconnect with some of my friends here. And yeah, so that was really what I was doing before COVID was, I kind of started up the live band here in Raleigh. We were playing a few shows here and there. I was working in a call center, which was terrible. I'm glad I left that job. So yeah, all in all, I feel like, we probably played like 6 or 7 shows once I had returned to Raleigh, and then COVID hit, and then we didn't play anything until Hopscotch of 2021. We did a day party at Ruby Deluxe. Nice. So that was the first show back.
Yeah, it's definitely good to get back on your feet. Do you have any plans for kind of any upcoming shows to promote Glossolalia?
Yeah, we're playing a show at Night Rider on the 23rd of this month, which is a Friday. I'm really looking forward to that one. That's with Gentle Jr. and Saturnalias, I believe. And yeah, we'll be playing several tracks off the new record. So I'm really stoked for that one. And then I think we're doing something in Richmond in October, and we've got some other Triangle shows lined up after that. So that's kind of the trajectory.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to see that you're back out there strong as ever. Do you have any more plans for any more music, or is it just like I just dropped an album, let's just play some songs live?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not writing anything yet for my own project. I've been really busy like doing this mixing and mastering stuff pretty much full time, so I'm planning on doing much more of that. And I also want to start recording and producing more for Triangle bands. I've been dipping my toes into that. I just finished helping Caroline finish her record, the new Infinity Crush record, which should be out at some point soon. So I'm looking to do a lot more just collaborative work with other musicians. I think that's my kind of path going forward for the next year or so. And then we'll see. I'm sure I'll put out more music of my own, but yeah, I'm gonna chill with that for a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that was not easy putting out an album, so I definitely want to let that ruminate
Right.
for a bit. That's awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about here?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, we really covered it all, I feel like.
Awesome. Yeah. And of course, thank you so much for being here and talking. If you want to let the listeners know kind of where to find you, either on social media or where they can find your music.
Yeah, thank you. So again, it's just my name, which is Max Gowan. If you Google that, it should come up with anything you would need, but you can also go to maxgowan.bandcamp.com to listen or buy physicals of my music. You can find me on Spotify, all that good stuff. And if you are looking for recording or mixing or mastering, you can check out my website for that, which is maxgowanaudio.com. And you can reach out through there if any of that's of interest to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for all that. And yeah, this was a great interview.
Yeah, thanks so much for the chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this interview with Max Gowan here on WKNC. If you want to check out any of our other interviews, you can go to wknc.org/podcast. I've been Plover. This has been Off the Record, and Max Gowan has been Max Gowan. See you next time.